The 1-2 again. Inside. The Royals, 2015 World Champions. Vaughn hits on the ground, left side, Wick dives, smothers it on the grass, to his feet, throw to first. Oh, he got him! What a play! Bobby Witt Jr. He is spectacular. The Royals come from behind and beat the White Sox 8-5. And who else than Bobby Witt Jr.? Gordon in the air to center. Back at the wall. This game is tied.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Crown Talk, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Royals. I'm Jared Perkins. We got Kevin O'Brien, and we got a new host with us now, Dalton, the creator of Royals Data Dugout. Dalton, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here. Oh, he can't hear us.
All right. Well, might be having some small technical difficulties, so we'll try to get him back on the air in a second. So
yeah. Well, we also can just restart it too. That's
True.
the fun part about this.
Yeah,
like
that's the fun part. It's not a radio. Yeah.
Yeah. I just messaged him on there. See if he can get it. Can you hear us now? Wonder if he's got it or not. You there, Dalton? Can you hear us?
Yeah, doesn't look like.
We'll give him.
Yeah,
No.
I wonder if it's something with the headphones.
So it automatically mutes you when the intro video plays, and I'm wondering if it unmuted him. If it didn't unmute him.
Okay.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, I can hear it now. I left real quick. Now it's working.
So sometimes when the intro video plays, it mutes you automatically. So just check on StreamYard. There's like a little microphone. Just make sure that's unmuted because sometimes that'll go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Off to a hot start. Sorry about that.
No, we'll play the intro again and we can just kind of roll back with it. And I can cut all this out, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, we're not live right now.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
The 1-2 again. Inside. The Royals, 2015 World Champions. Vaughn hits on the ground, left side, Wick dives, smothers it on the grass, to his feet, throw to first. Oh, he got him! What a play! Bobby Witt Jr. He is spectacular. The Royals come from behind and beat the White Sox 8-5. And who else than Bobby Witt Jr.? Gordon in the air to center. Back at the wall. This game is tied.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Crown Talk, your go-to Kansas City Royals podcast. I'm Jared Perkins. That's Kevin O'Brien, but we got a new host with us today, Dalton from Royals Data Dugout. Dalton, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Love the show. I listen every week. I think it's a really good kind of reset the way you guys do it, looking back at the week that was and the week ahead. So enjoy listening. Peek behind the curtain. I had some audio issues here as we were getting started, so I might not get invited back. Might be one and done. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you on. We're excited to talk a little bit of Royals baseball. We've got a lot of games to catch up on because we missed last week as well. I believe we want to start with the Royals and the Reds series. Royals lose series seems to be a common theme lately, but they avoid the sweep. Kevin, talk a little bit about what you saw in this series.
Yeah, kind of a weird series with kind of a game on Memorial Day. It was a rainy day at Kauffman on Monday, which, I think it really affected Michael Lorenzen. Michael Lorenzen just didn't have his sharp stuff, and he gave up 6 runs kind of early on in the game, and the Royals just weren't able to catch up. They faced they faced I can't even remember who they faced in game 2, but it was like they lost game 2, who they shouldn't have lost, and then they ended up being Hunter Green, the Reds ace, in game 3. So kind of a weird series for the Royals. They kind of were able to scrap some offense together, but a kind of a winnable series, especially since the Reds were 500 going into that series, and the Royals ended up losing 2 out of 3, which was not a great start to the week.
Yeah, we did have a positive in there, though. We did see the debut of John Rave. Dalton, do you have any thoughts on John Rave? What are some of the expectations that you have for him?
It hasn't been pretty so far. I think he got a couple hits. Yeah, I mean, he kind of has like fourth outfielder vibes, which in a vacuum is a good thing for sure. You can always use those types of players, but problem is the Royals have like 9 fourth outfielders right now.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, I think he's an interesting piece, and obviously want to see a little bit more of a runway than just these few games that we've seen so far.
I think Kevin, I saw him. He was leading off today.
Well, he was initially leading off.
To.
Yeah, then Michael got scratched, and so then he got moved back down, and then India led off again. So,
yeah, I don't know. I know like Josh has been very high on John Rave and a few others. I like the player. I like the human being. I think he's an awesome guy. I just don't, like Dalton kind of said, he's just got that fourth outfielder vibe. And that's when I was doing my prospects rankings in the preseason. I don't even think I had him in the top 15, top 20. I still like, he's produced at every level. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, you have guys like who will go through the minor leaguers and produce at every single level and just end up being a fourth outfielder. And I think that's okay. I think there's a ton of platoon risk there, right, from the left-handed side. I don't know. I kind of struggle with what his outlook and expectation might be. But Kevin, you got to watch him a little bit more this week. Did you see anything that you liked out of him?
I mean, as kind of Dalton talked about, it's he's not a bad player, right? It's like he's kind of a grinder. He's kind of like this prototype of what we see from Royals outfielders that are developed. It's like he's good defensively. He's pretty polished. But he did look overwhelmed by really good pitching, and you kind of saw that a little bit today in some key spots. Just striking out with the bases loaded. I know he had 2 hits today. One was kind of like a seeing eye hit, so it wasn't like he scorched it. But kind of as Dalton said, it's like we already have Kyle Isbell, we already have Drew Waters. It's like, do we really need another guy who's kind of like just going to make contact? That's kind of not what the Royals need right here. They need some power, and unfortunately, Rave just doesn't give it to you in enough quantities. And I don't think his hit tool is so elite that it makes up for that.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue that we've been kind of dealing with right since the offseason. We talked about how they needed to fill the gaps in the outfield or at second base because Massey hasn't been producing, and a lot of it is like everybody in Omaha is a 4A type player, basically. Yeah. Like no one's gonna come up and be that superstar. And like every time everybody's like, we got to send Massey down or we have to send MJ down, but it's like, who are you going to call up? Like that's the problem I think the Royals have had for a little bit now. It's like kind of like, okay, who's next in line? There's not a big super, like, of course we now know Cags is down there and like he's the next big superstar to come up and like will have extensive playing time and be a guy that you expect to be an everyday player. But like Tyler Gentry, Nelson Velasquez, who's just been released, like that, I don't know. Dalton, is there any guys that you kind of are like, oh, we got some help in the future?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Cags, like you said. But right now it just feels like a lot of more organizational depth type guys and not a lot of difference makers. Like you alluded to with the Massey thing, a lot of people want to send down Massey and make a move there, but who is it that you're calling up to fill those shoes? And I've kind of gotten some of the same thing with seeing people want to move Salvi down in the order. Obviously he's been ice cold for a while now, but same question, like who are you moving up in the order? Someone has to hit 4th and 5th.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's the problem they've had all year, and it's like great we DFA'd Renfroe, but who's really kind of filling in there to take his spot? I don't know. It's tough, but yeah, I mean, Noah Cameron's been great, so there's some positive news there. Like the pitching staff continues to deal. We keep losing 1-0 games. I don't know. What do you do with Noah and Cameron at this point, right? You're gonna have Ragans back soon. Like you're gonna have a healthy rotation. Like, do you keep Noah up? I don't know.
I mean, I think it's I think it's merited. I know that we want him to start. I don't think there's anything wrong with going through a 6-man rotation. I think if you had a fully healthy Cole Ragans and even a fully healthy Lugo, I think I think I'd be more like, okay, maybe send Cameron to AAA. But we really don't know how Ragans is going to respond when he comes up. I mean, when he had this initial groin injury, a lot of people were talking about, hey, this might be something that lingers with him for a little bit. So, you don't want to kind of put that travel strain on Cameron where he's like going up and down I-29 and he's not really able to get comfortable. We know he can do well. He's obvious. The Royals' strength is in their pitching. So keep their strength the strength. Don't dilute their strength because, we can't have more than 5 guys in the rotation. Q is a very, forward-thinking manager. I mean, he came from the Rays organization who does stuff like this. So, I wouldn't be surprised, at least from Q's standpoint, if he might be advocating for a 6-man rotation.
Yeah. Yeah. At that point, it's like, this is where I struggle because the pitching staff's so good, and you're like, if you just had 3 or 4 more competent bats in that lineup, just, not even the all-stars at this point, you just need guys who are going to hit 260, 270 and do something. They don't even have that, and I think that's the tough part. Is you're watching, you don't want to see this pitching staff go to waste. I think that's where I start to worry. Is you got guys like Noah Cameron, you have this electric bullpen, you're not going to have Lugo and Walker forever. I get worried that if they don't do something to supplement the offense, they're just going to kind of let this entire pitching staff go to waste completely.
Yeah, part of where it gets tricky with Noah Cameron too is so much of the rest of the starting pitching depth is still beat up. I mean, we're still waiting on Alec Marsh to come back. Kyle Wright threw a couple innings, I think. What was that, last weekend, maybe a few days ago? So that gets tricky with going to a 6-man too, is now that's basically all of your 6 starting pitchers that are on your 40-man are in the rotation.
Yeah.
He deserves to stay up for sure. I'm not advocating he should be sent to AAA. I kind of feel like that's the most likely outcome right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you have another option too, especially when you can't just afford to send bats down when you don't have performing bats. I don't know. It's one of those tough things that I think they're going to kind of deal with. Do you have any other insights, Kevin, on or thoughts on the Red series here?
I think it's one of those series that I think it was kind of a good benchmark right now. Again, the Reds are kind of a really streaky team. So, the Reds have, they've had series where they've looked shut out and it looked awful. And they've had series where they've blown out teams. When you have hitters like Elly De La Cruz and you have hitters like Spencer Steer, who can be really streaky, it's just one of those things. It was encouraging to see them kind of come up and, facing a sweep, and they really stepped up against Hunter Green, who's been a pretty elite pitcher this year. But, it was kind of a tough week, a tough way to start the series. And again, especially against pitchers that you felt like, oh man, we should have gotten them.
Yeah. I'm going to shift a little bit to the Tiger series here. So this one was a little bit frustrating because it's the one game the offense shows up and scores 5 runs. Lugo has a bad start, gives up 4. I think that then because you look at the other 2 Tigers games, they won 1-0 and lost 1-0. So the pitching staff is back to dealing, but it's the one game you just actually scored some runs, scored 5 runs. It felt like that's a game that they should win, right? But they gave up 4 right off the bat in the first 2 innings. Lugo again coming back from the injured list, probably not fully ready to go, or not that he's not fully ready to go, but kind of getting his feet underneath him as he gets back into the big leagues. I don't know. I don't have a ton of thoughts on this game, but Kev, what do you got here?
Yeah, tough series. The Tigers are just a juggernaut, right? The Tigers are one of the best teams in baseball. And, Friday night was kind of, Torque did Torque things. It seems like Torkelson, either has really bad games or has these really good games against us. And that's kind of what happened on Friday. But, we held the Tigers to 1 run on Saturday and Sunday, and we lost one of those games, and that's tough. And because you think, hey, oh wow, we held the Tigers to one run, we should have took those 2 games. And you're like, no, not exactly. We only scored 1 run as well. So it's that's tough. But I do think we saw some great pitching from our staff. So I think that's encouraging. But at the end of the day, it's the bats really didn't come through. And you kind of understand that against Skubal on Saturday, who's just masterful and is probably going to win the AL Cy Young again. But against Kiter, Montero in the bullpen, that one's a little more difficult to stomach.
Yeah. I was looking at game one, and Waters had 3 RBIs, went 2 for 5. I look at his Savant page, and I'm like, how is he hitting 284? Doesn't make any sense. And he's got an expected batting average of 255. So it's like not that far off. Dalton, what is your thoughts on Waters? He's found a way to maintain himself in the big leagues. Like, he's playing every day because he's one of the only guys hitting over 280 on the team. So, like, you're going to play if you're going to hit over 280. But
right.
I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
I don't know, man. Kind of with you. Like, it's just a weird. I'm not sure how he's doing it, but yeah, he's hanging in there. Like, someone has to play corner outfield. He's smoking fastballs. I don't have the numbers pulled up in front of me right now, but he crushes fastballs. So maybe eventually something changes there and guys just quit throwing him heaters. But for right now, he's hanging in there. At least a little bit of a spark because, yeah, they just need anything from somebody.
Yeah, at that rate. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I'm looking at the lineup right now. And it's like Rave's hitting 09.
Don't do that.
Yeah, Mass is hitting 209. Like, it's not pretty overall. I want to kind of jump into. I want to get into the other two Royals games, the both the 1-0 games. But like Michael Massey, does he benefit from being in the major leagues anymore? Because like right now, it doesn't feel like he is. It just feels like he's kind of on that MJ train right now, where nothing's going right and he's completely in his head. And I just don't know how you get him out of this.
I mean, I kind of. At first I did not think so. At first I thought, well, he was having some good at bats. He was, a lot of it was some bad ball luck, but I was at the game today and you could just tell he just kind of looks defeated. I mean, just kind of had some, some weak, he had a couple, hard hits, but he had a lot of ground balls and sub 500, OPS, if you look at the regulars, only Joey Ortiz from the Brewers is like the worst, regular player right now on an OPS end. I mean, I think that stuff is really kind of wearing on him. And I just think it's I think there's, because of the Royals hitting struggles, I think there's just so much that's kind of just focusing on him. Now, is he the problem? No, he's like the 7th, 8th hitter on this team. He's not the problem on this team, but there was some expectations for him, and he hasn't lived up to them. And I think he just needs a reset. We're seeing kind of MJ Melendez kind of having that reset, and in the month of May he was a lot better. And even today, MJ Melendez had another home run in Omaha. And I wonder if Massey would benefit from something like that as well, from a couple months in Omaha to reset, get out of the noise, and just kind of focus on building some confidence. I think the tools are there. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite hitter by any means. He swings too much. The exit velocity metrics aren't there, but I think he can be pretty good, but I don't think he's going to be doing good in this environment where there's so much pressure on the hitting to perform.
Yeah, and I was looking at a Savant page, like everything's bad right now. Average exit velo, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage. Like, he's just, like you mentioned, he already doesn't hit the ball hard. Like, he's not a guy who's going to get a ton of barrel and high exit velos, but like last year, at least he was at least in like the 50th percentile. Like right now he's down all the way into the 4th or 16th percentile in average exit velo, 10th percentile in barrel percentage, 13th percentile in hard hit percentage. He's in the 1st percentile in walk percentage. I think that's probably the worst thing you want to see for a guy who's struggling. He's not even getting on base at this point. And I think that's where it's just like, yeah, the positive signs is he's not whiffing a ton. He's not striking out a ton. Like, that's kind of always been Michael Massey. He's a guy that's not going to do that. But like, if you're not getting on base, you're not finding ways to put the ball in play in a hard way. I don't know. Don, I know you do a lot of the data. What are your thoughts on Massey?
Well, Kevin mentioned maybe, spending some time in AAA. I wonder if he wouldn't benefit from a stint on the injured list and just getting some time off because and I wrote about it earlier this year, but I kind of wonder if he's playing hurt. We know he's had the back stuff, and that's just kind of one of those things that doesn't go away. He's going to be ARB eligible this offseason for the first time, and that first year of arbitration is so dependent on counting stats. And, if you're not out there, then you're not racking up his counting stats. So I kind of wonder if he's trying to play through something. I mean, like you guys talked about the exit velocity stuff. He was already league average before this year. His exit below 90 last year, 89.
Yeah.
He's been 110 in the past. Doesn't sound like a huge thing, but most guys are reaching that max threshold by like the first month of the season. So the fact that we're 2 months in and he's still like a full tick and a half away from his max EV, that seems to me like something is off either mechanically or physically.
Yeah. No, I agree there. And it's just that you don't have the expectation that he's going to be that bad, right? Like, I don't think he has that expectation either. Like, he's had the talent. He showcased that he could do things last year. So I agree. Like, I think a reset's probably the best for him. Just looking at the other two games, kind of want to dive into these. Waka absolutely dominated. Again, in game 2 against the Tigers. Royals won that 1-0. I mean, again, offense didn't show up. You had Dairon Blanco playing, who's hitting like 167 on the season. Got to start that game because Skubal was on the mound. Like, you're facing Skubal, so like you're gonna probably sit as many lefties as possible and bump them all down the order. Like Pasquantino was at the bottom. Like winning that game 1-0, you're happy about because you're facing Tarik Skubal, right? That's when you expect the offense to not show up, is when you're facing an ace-like pitcher like that. So I think for that game, I don't know. I come away with that like, okay, good. They won that 1-0. Like, you had a 5-run game the game before that. I don't know. It just feels like that one like is coming away with somewhat of a positive.
Yeah, and I think that's the thought is that, hey, we beat Tarik Skubal, right? And it's like, and again, the Royals for some reason have fared well against aces, right?
Mm-hmm.
They beat Hunter Green. They beat Tarik Skubal earlier in the year in Detroit. They beat Logan Webb in San Francisco. So yeah, they have this capability to step up in the big moments. But again, I kind of have this concern, like, again, kind of that carryover. They kind of hyped themselves up for this big game, and then kind of that carryover on Sunday. And even at the ballpark, it just looked like the team was just, I don't know if it was sluggish. I don't know if it was a heat. I mean, I know these are professional athletes and they have to like be focused. I get that. But it just kind of seemed like something was off. So that was a little tough to see from them, especially when you had 2 great back-to-back performances from Waka and Bubic, who were absolutely shoved.
Yeah, I mean, that goes kind of into the second game. Like, Bubic goes 7 innings, 4 hits, 9 Ks, 1 earned run. Bullpen dominates. Royals give up 1 run, don't win. They have 9 hits. They out-hit the Tigers in this one, too, which I think is even more frustrating. It's like Salvi went 3 for 4, Rave went 2 for 4, Isbell went 1 for 3. Like, the bats were hitting in some sense, but like they just were not hitting with runners in scoring position. That's one of those games that's really frustrating to lose.
Yeah, and speaking of running in scoring position, I have all those stats kind of up, and it's bad because one thing about the Royals, I mean, you look at it, they rank last in WRC plus 61, tied with the Rockies. They rank last in slugging. Which we know the power is an issue, but their 316 slugging with runners in scoring position is 21 points worse than the Texas Rangers, who are the second worst. And it's also kind of interesting that the Royals, you would think, okay, what's wrong? They actually, their walk to K ratio is actually 0.39. Their K rate at 18.4, it ranks 25th, which is not bad, but their walk rate of 7.2% is worse in baseball. So it's kind of one of these things of the Royals. They're kind of in these clutch runners in scoring positions. It's almost like they're swinging too much, right? It's almost like they're trying to put, and you can't see that with Vinny sometimes. They're trying to do too much in these spots, almost like they're pressing, and it ends up being counterintuitive. And and that makes me concerned about just like, again, we know that the Royals are putting a lot of pressure on themselves, and and that's why you miss guys who are veterans in this team. I know Adam Frazier had his issues as a player, but when you kind of have some of those veteran guys that can kind of take the pressure off, you're not having all these young guys. And I think the Royals kind of felt last year like, oh, they got the experience, they got to the playoffs, like they can handle it. And we're kind of seeing that they really can't yet. Yeah. It seems like their young guys are still going through those growing pains in runners and scoring positions and high leverage situations.
Well, I think last year, or we talked about like the addition of Yuli Gurriel, right? Like every at bat was a professional at bat. Like you talk about a guy who's just been a professional hitter his entire career, and like if guys are going through slumps or trying to do too much, like Yuli's probably a guy who's going to walk you through it and figure out how to get out of those kind of situations. And like, so you're trying to overdo everything and trying to press and push and be able to not do anything. And I think that's like you said, they don't have that. Who's the big veteran on the team? It's Salvi. Like, and Salvi's the only guy. And we know how much Salvi is a free swinger, and he's a guy who's just going to try to hit the ball out of the park every time. He doesn't really have a plate approach. As much as I love Salvi, he just goes up there and is like, hopefully I make contact, and it goes far. I don't know. Don, what are some of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, Kevin mentioned, the pressing, and I guess part of me kind of wonders how much of it is like last year they get off to a really good start with runners in scoring position, and that confidence just keeps building and building and building, and you're feeling good. And then this year it's like the total opposite, right? Mm-hmm. It felt like it took 3 weeks for them to get hit with runners in scoring position, and so now everybody's pressing. It's not just one or two guys or whatever. Vinny was the perfect example. Like Kevin said, he's kind of always had that, like when runners are on base or in scoring position, he's just going after like the first, second pitch. He just wants to lift it in the air, which at times is that in a tie game late or whatever. But in some of these spots, just they're really pressing and, like you said, kind of swinging at that first or second pitch.
Yeah. I guess that kind of transitions into how do we feel this team's doing overall in the first 60 games? At 31-29, kind of middling at 500 ball here. I think last time I checked the standings, they were 7 games back, so they're probably 8 games back now. After that, 8 games back from the Tigers. 4-6 in the last 10. I don't know. How are we feeling, Kevin, about the 31-29 Royals?
I think it's hard because this is the Royals. I mean, we have like a lot of history of us not being very good, and I think 31-29 at the start of June, is not a bad place to be. I think it's, and then I do think Cleveland, Minnesota, us. I think we're very interchangeable, right? Like it seems like Cleveland, Minnesota also have their issues. Cleveland has issues beyond Jose Ramirez, right? So I mean, and then Minnesota. Royce Lewis is just tanking this year. So, they're going through some of their own issues too. So, I mean, I think it's just, I feel good still about a playoff position. Even like these last 2 games, I think we can kind of see that Detroit is vulnerable. They can be kind of streaky. I think Detroit feels very much like Cleveland or us last year in the sense they got off to this crazy hot start. And you look at the talent, you're like, Zach McKinstry is not going to be able to carry this team, or Malloy or Javi Baez. Like these guys are going to regress, and so you kind of feel like it. Hopefully, like a Detroit and Kansas City like flip spots like they did. Like Detroit kind of started slow, and then Detroit turned it on at the end. Maybe it's the opposite, but I'm still feeling good because I know JJ as a GM, he's going to make moves. Like if it was like if this was like Mike Elias, or if this was like somebody like whoever is the GM of the Pirates now, like I would be worried because I'm like, well, they're not going to trade anybody. They're not going to make any moves. But for us, I feel like, I think JJ is going to make moves. I think he's going to make them quickly. Whether they're going to be the ones that work out, we'll see. But I know that there's going to be roster moves happening that's going to help this team be better.
Yeah, and I think I'd be more concerned if the pitching staff wasn't as good as it is, right? They're carrying the entire team on their own. Like it's hit them and Bobby Witt. That is the Royals right now. The rest of the offense is just kind of there hanging out and showing up and putting a uniform on every day. No offense to them, but like they're just not producing. And I think it's hard to argue that like most of those guys are in a starting lineup and on another team. Like I don't know, Salvi's probably the only one just because of his stature, but even he's playing awful. Vinny has been fine, but he's been pretty mediocre for the most part. And that's because, one, everybody's expecting Vinny to be the only run producer outside of Bobby. So it's almost like there's probably way too much pressure on Vinny. Like imagine if you had 2 or 3 guys around him who were actually producing at a high level. Like that probably takes a ton of pressure off of Vinny, and he's not the one getting like kind of nitpicked in some sense, because it's like you got to get through Bobby, you got to get through Vinny, and then like as a pitcher, you're like, okay, just basically throw heaters down the middle to everybody and see what happens. It's just, I think it's going to put more pressure on those guys to produce because they don't have that safety net.
But I think that's part of the front office's fear with calling up Caglianone right now too. You don't want him to come in and feel that same pressure that Vinny feels of like, sorry, buddy, we need you to be the savior. We know you're like 24 years old. A year ago, you were still pitching, but here you go. But yeah, I don't know. If you had told me on like February 1st that on June 1st, Royals are going to be 31-29, Caglianone's already in Omaha, slugging the baseball, everybody's begging to be called up. Like, I don't know. I think I would take that.
Yeah. Well, I think the other issue is the Royals last year were in a division that was a lot closer. I think the Tigers kind of pulling away from everybody is putting more pressure, and Royals fans are kind of freaking out a little bit more just because you got a team that's obviously showcasing that they're the best team in the AL Central right now, and they're putting themselves like way above everybody else. Or the Guardians are the closest? Yeah, they're 6 games out. So like the Tigers have put themselves in a good spot early on. When we've seen it can fluctuate and shift pretty quickly. Like the Guardians were red hot and the Royals caught them. And next thing you know, the Royals were only 1 game out of first place at one point, or even took the lead in first place. So it's like, that's why I think Royals fans are probably freaking out a little bit more. One, because they were good last year, right? Because last year they were good. But the year before that, they were awful. So like everybody was like, okay, yeah, this is a surprise. This is nice. Let's just kind of enjoy the ride. Now the expectation is like the Royals are a good baseball team. And then you see them 7-8 games back and you're like, season's over. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the expectations have just shifted. And so that's kind of why there's more concern, I think, early on than there usually would be.
Yeah, and you look at just the expected. I think that's another thing that is a little concerning is just the expected run differential. Like last year, I think we could feel good about where the Royals were because the expected run differential was so stable most of the year. That hasn't been the case. I mean, we're -7 right now. But again, it's like really like it's a tale of two extremes. Like our 201 runs allowed, I think it's the second best mark in the major leagues. And our 194, it's tied for the second worst with the Pirates, only better than the Rockies. And so, it's just like
tied for the worst. Do the Rockies count?
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's why I think we're seeing some of the freak out is just we don't have that run differential to like lean on like we did last year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess the question is, we've talked about Cags quite a bit. Like, when do we expect to see him up in the big leagues? I think we've all heard rumors like, oh, it feels like every week we're like, oh, it's Cags week. Going to be Cags this week. But Dalton, what do you think? When do you think we realistically see Cags in the big leagues?
I know in my season preview that went out on opening day, I predicted June 24th. And I actually kind of, instead of picking a date and then writing it out, like how it would work out, I kind of just started from the beginning of like an actual process where I thought it would happen. And I got done and saw June 24th. And I was like, no, this is dumb, but I'm gonna put it out there because I'm an optimist. And then now, I don't know, that feels pretty realistic. I know a lot of people are thinking like June 10th range or around there, but we know the Royals are going to slow play this as much as they can. JJ's talked already about how he wants the offense to be hot before they call him up, which I don't think is going to happen.
So we'll see Cags in like 2027, maybe.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think it's going to be probably longer than what people want it to be. So I'll stick with that June 24th, just because I have tickets to that game and I'd like to be right from the season preview. So about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I did the draft last year and I saw the Royals took him, I said he was going to make like a Wyatt Langford ascend to the big leagues, which if he did, he'd probably be up because Wyatt got called up like early May, wasn't it something like crazy?
Yeah.
It was really early.
Yeah. Thing is, like what we've talked about though, the Rangers had bats. Like they had an offense they could kind of plug him in, and he didn't have to be the 3-4 hitter right away. So like I think that's where the Royals are just in a different situation where like Cags is 100,000% big league ready. I think we all know it. I think the front office knows it, but they want to put him in a position to succeed. They don't want to see like a Jackson Holiday scenario, or see something else where like he's all of a sudden getting all the pressure in the world to put the offense on his back, basically as a rookie. It's because we've seen like Shaw called up. Matt Shaw's been sent down. We've seen Jackson Holiday. Like it happens like with new guys as they try to adjust to the big leagues. And I think the front office is cognizant of that.
Yeah, and I think June 24th. I mean, I think I thought that was a really early one. Like, to be honest, I mean, I kind of was thinking initially probably like July. I hate to say this, but I look at the June 10th, and the reason I think about this is, one, we know John Sherman wants to win, right? We know JJ Piccolo want to win. So I think the Royals are going to be aggressive because they want to win. I think the service time thing, if that was kind of the case, right? You think about a Bobby Witt Jr., would they have promoted him on opening day on 2022 if they really cared about stuff like that? If they were the Rays or if they were like the Orioles, like maybe not. I do think next week, I mean, I think the 14th for the Oakland series, I think you have Alex Gordon in the house. I don't see them throwing it against the Yankees, making that the first series. I just feel like that's too much pressure in a sense, because if you're throwing it against the Yankees, that's just a lot. But I do think, with the A's, who are a bit of a mess, and you're kind of having like all the people being there for Alex Gordon enshrinement, I think that would make a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, like, I understand that we want him to have success around him, but that's just not going to come from anybody on that roster. I mean, and the thing that they miss so much right now is a guy who can hit the long ball right now. Like they just don't have that. Like right now, it's like Canna's not going to do that. John Rave is not going to do that. Dairon Blanco is not going to do that. And, I get that Cags might struggle and there might be some whiffs, but I also know he's going to hit the ball hard and he's going to have that potential to go yard at Kaufman, and that's what they need the most. So I think that we'll see them roll the dice. I think that I'm looking at that 14th as kind of my benchmark.
Yeah.
But I also, like you said, Dalton, I think we'll get a good sense in the coming days of because people are going to be crying out about this. I mean, 1 run over 2 games against a division leader. Now you've kind of like you've given 2 series to the Tigers. Like, it's going to be on sports radio all day of like, you guys need to do something. You guys can't lose any more ground against the division. And so I'd be interested to see what they do from there.
Reasons to keep him down. Like, they can talk about rates and all that stuff. Like, look, okay, it's not great, but the contact rates are really good for him right now in Omaha. So it's like, you can't even really come up with a good reason to not bring him up right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, like, if we want to think about trade candidates, like, who could the Royals bring in, like, ASAP, basically, so the Cags doesn't have to be alone, right? Like, you look at the teams, we talked a little bit in our group chat about the D-backs right now, that Corbin Burns is down with a potential of very significant arm injury, unfortunately. So, like, are the D-backs going to sell quicker or sooner than later? Are there teams, like, looking to sell right now that you could go get a couple bats, plug them into the lineup, and then bring Cags up, like, right after that? I don't think that's realistic in some sense, but like, who should they get in order to kind of supplement having Cags up?
Well, and that's a hard part, because, like, who's really in the selling mode right now? I mean, we all thought the Angels were going to be in selling mode, but they're kind of competitive. They're they're in the thick of the race. So, I mean, they're not going to. The Angels might not. They might take until the trade deadline to even consider that. So right now it's like you're looking at like the Rockies and the White Sox, maybe the Marlins, but Jesus Sanchez is really the only guy I kind of like of that group, and I don't think they're going to give him up cheaply. I mean, Peter Bendix, he's a Tampa Bay guy. He's gonna want to return, and so I think that's kind of the tough part. Is I think we know of some of the targets. I think we know the Taylor Wards, and we know, but it's just that might not happen for another month, unfortunately, unless like something like the Diamondbacks, unless they say, forget it, we're in the same division as the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants. Let's just blow this up right now and get what we can and try to get some pitching, because we're not going to have Corbin Burns next year.
Yeah.
And Brandon Pfaadt just gave up 10 runs or 8 runs in the first inning against the Nationals. So, like, maybe we do need whatever you have in Kansas City. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to even talk trades right now, 'cause like you said, I don't think I don't know. I just don't know who's going to be available at the time. Dolan, are there guys that you're kind of looking at that you're hoping that the Royals kind of get into town?
Evergreen Taylor Ward tweet. But yeah, like you guys said, I mean, the Angels, they're 5 games out of the wild card right now. They are 3-7 in their last 10, negative 57 run differential. So, I mean, things are trending down for them for sure. But I mean, we talked about Taylor Ward to the Royals for like, I don't know, since the Civil War. So I don't know that that's ever actually going to happen. And then, yeah, if you're looking at teams that are already like 8+ games back from the wild card, it's Colorado and Pittsburgh. And it's like, is anybody really appealing? I mean, Brian Reynolds, but he's under contract for so long, and I mean, he's not expensive, but he's Royals expensive in a way, and he's just not playing that well this year. So, like a first. Then the other one that I was into is Cedric Mullins, but he just went on the injured list.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good candidate down.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think once we get closer to the deadline too, we'll probably do like a little trade deadline special or preview, or try to talk about potential candidates, get a full list, have everybody break them down. Yeah, I guess the last thing we got on the list here, Kevin, is kind of Royal Stadium thoughts. Kansas downtown doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I mean, we're hearing a lot of it. I don't want this show. I want our show to be about baseball, but I think the stadium thing's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've went to the latest stadium off my checklist. I went to Chicago to the Rate Fields. You know, not a bad park. I know everybody kind of gives it grief because it's like, you know, it's compared to Wrigley. But, you know, it's just, it kind of makes you realize that Kauffman, sometimes I'm just like, the concourses are so narrow. Like if you go in the first like concourse, like first level concourses, and it's just like, there's just not a lot of space. And then when you go to like other ballparks, you realize like, wow, there's a lot of space here. Yeah. But you know, I'd like to see some kind of decision made soon. I mean, I don't think the Royals are going to move out of the Metro. I mean, I don't think it's like, oh, they're going to go to Nashville or something like that. But you know, I think it's kind of interesting that, like, again, I want to know if a move is going to be made. I mean, my feeling and my vote is always a downtown. If we're going to do this, like, just do it and just get it downtown and get it to be something that could really be built around it. But I also I don't want to lose the charm of the actual K's Stadium, though. With bigger concourses, if we can have bigger concourses, I'd be happy with that. But that's just kind of where I'm at. Is like, I really don't want an Overland Park. Just like, I'm just going to say that to anybody who's from Johnson County. I don't want to deal with 35 South traffic. Like at 5 o'clock trying to go to a game in like South Overland Park. That sounds like the worst thing in the world. Yeah. For anything, like, because there's no other alternatives. So just not at Overland Park. That's all I care about for the Royals' new stadium. Downtown.
Yeah, that would be like 15. That'd be like 15 miles closer to my house, and it would take like 30 more minutes for me to get there than to the K. So
that sounds awful.
Selfishly, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I don't really have too many thoughts on this, living in right outside of Washington, D.C. So
kind of a one track for you either way.
Yeah. I was like, you can kind of put the stadium wherever you want. Have a good time. I don't know. I don't have thoughts. I got the Orioles and the Nationals near me, and all I can say is that the National Stadium sucks. So Baltimore, great. Washington, terrible. Awful stadium. It's the worst. I hate it. Yeah, it's just like they built a new ballpark in the middle of DC. Used to have like a beautiful like skyline view of the Capitol and the National Mall. They built apartment buildings around it, and now you can't see anything but apartment buildings. It's a good time. Go to a Nats game. It's fun.
Less than ideal.
Yeah. I think that kind of does it for us. I don't think we have any other topics. Kevin, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I mean, we got kind of like rivalry weekend week this week. You know, we're going to St. Louis. You know, we're going to the South Side, so will be an interesting one. Cardinals, you know, they got kind of beat up today, so we'll see how the Royals do against them. They dropped 2 or 3, you know, at home, so it'll be nice if we can kind of get back to them. And White Sox, you know, will be an interesting one. I mean, White Sox are 18-40, but they have some interesting pitchers, right? Sean Burke, he's a dude. I think, the White Sox starting pitching is at least showing some signs of hope. That one could be an interesting series, but hopefully, the Royals can get back on track with a winning week, and doing it against some kind of nearby Midwest teams would be kind of a nice bonus too.
Love it. Dalton, what about you? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Cardinals series for sure. I think it sets up pretty well for the Royals. We get to see the same three Cardinals arms, Palante, Michaelis, and Liberatore. So it's kind of an advantage. Let's see. Three guys that they didn't see. I think they saw Lugo the first series, but other than that, they didn't see Lorenzen or Cameron. And I guess Thursday's technically open for us right now. I don't think we've announced. So, but yeah, and then the Cardinals have the Dodgers next weekend. So maybe a little bit of a look ahead spot where they're not, don't care so much about the Royals, but I don't know. Maybe that's a football thing. Maybe I'm thinking too far into it, but I'm trying to be optimistic, man. It's a tough Sunday for the boys in blue. So just trying to find the silver lining here.
Yeah, that's what we got to do right now. We're only, not even 62 games into the season, or so. Got a long season left. That's about it for us. So until next time, go Royals.
Go Royals.
Go Royals.